Hello, beautiful brides. It's Adina here from South Africa, and I have a very, very special guest with me again today, and it's Atarah Matthews. She's our marriage minister and LMF for Hope at Last. And I would love to encourage you to please go over to Hope at Last and listen to all her podcasts and just everything that she shares. It's so beautiful and so amazing, and you will be so encouraged and learn so much. But first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about Atarah. So Atarah has a restored marriage, a beautiful teenage daughter, a restoration baby. That's not a restoration. That's not a baby anymore. He's quite big now. And her husband is at home. So welcome, Atarah. And if you can please share with us and how about becoming his bride and how are you nurturing it now and with everything going on in your life.
Yes, hello ladies. So yes, I'm Atarah Matthews, and Adina, thank you for inviting me. So to answer your question, yes, I have an earthly husband. I have two kids, as you said, an 8-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl. And yes, having a heavenly husband and nurturing that relationship with my family, having him definitely helps because when things go wrong, if I end up having a argument with my earthly husband, or there's struggles or trials with my kids, I know that I can go to him and I can speak to him as a bride, and speak to him in. I love that scripture that speaks about, us being humble. When we humble, he lifts us up. So I go to him having a gentle and quiet spirit and humbling myself before him, knowing that he loves me, knowing that he has this overwhelming love for me. And I'll go to him and I'll say, you know what, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that, or I've just had this argument with earthly husband. Will you please, take control of the situation? So I'll speak to him about the situation. And, I love just on those days when I'm really feeling, overwhelmed with whatever's happening, make myself a cup of coffee, go sit on the couch or sit on the bed with him. And I'll just, share my heart with him. And just to give you a little bit more insight, my earthly husband and I, it doesn't mean that now that we restored our marriage is perfect. No, it's definitely not. We still have arguments like any other married couple. But I find that being a worker at home and being alone when my kids go to school and my earthly husband goes to work, I can then sit with my heavenly husband and we can have a conversation, and I can tell him, you know, my earthly husband may be so mad or whatever. I'll speak to him about the argument and what happened, and I'll ask him to change my earthly husband's heart, um, and for him, to turn his heart and to help us to get through the whatever it was. And I promise you, on most days, I'll maybe get a little message later on in the day from my earthly husband to say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry. I know I got angry. Um, it's and we'll move on. He'll crack a joke or I'll crack a joke, and we're able to move on. So I find that having my heavenly husband also helps me not to be so prideful, because when you're having an argument, what happens is when you become upset, it's very hard for you to like with having pride, you'll be upset for a while. You'll still have that hurt in your heart from whatever happened. But I find that having my heavenly husband, I can go to him and he softens my heart. He helps me to get through that and to put it behind me and to put it in the past. And then I can, if my earthly husband speaks to me, then I can speak back to him in kindness and love. And that's because of the love that my heavenly husband gives me. So, having that's definitely how I can share how it relates to having a family and having him, first in my life. Because when I have him first, everything else falls into place because I can give it to him and he sorts it out, So, yeah, I think that's what I want to share with concerning that question, Adina.
Yeah, because I mean, having a household, having to cook everything, if you, okay, you are a worker at home, which plays, so you have that time with him in the mornings when your children are at school and where you can spend time with your heavenly husband. But for a woman that's working outside the home, I guess that would be a bit more challenging
Yes.
to carve out
Yeah.
that time to be with your heavenly husband.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so important because
Yes.
whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are engaged, you need that relationship
Yeah.
with,
You
that's.
definitely do. And
Mm,
you know what? Coming to that, Adina, I actually just spoke to my daughter about it, and I said to her, you know what? Don't rush love,
mm,
because he will bring love at the perfect time and with the perfect person, and it will exclude, because she saw what her dad and I went through in our when we were separated, and when we went through our divorce. And I said to her, you know what? Don't rush love. Trust your heavenly Father. He will bring the right man into your life at the right time. Right now, what you can concentrate is on your relationship with your heavenly Father. And if you want somebody in your life, love him and give him your heart, because we're so quick to throw our hearts out. And we all know when we were young girls, we go through crushes, and we go through all these feelings. But I said to her, don't rush love. Give those feelings to him, and allow him. Because a lot of the time our hearts, and especially when we're young, I get young girls. I was a young girl. I know how I felt then. So I was just trying to explain to my daughter about that. And I really hope and pray that she understood what I was trying to share with her. Because like you said, whether you're a single girl, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whether it doesn't matter where you are in your life, we all need him, and we all have that need, and that only he can fulfill. And a lot of the time we look in the wrong places for that need to be fulfilled, and then we get ourselves into so much unnecessary struggles and hassles in my life. I know I did,
yeah,
until I found him.
no, me as well.
Yeah.
And what I also try and teach my daughter is to now start
Mm.
praying for her
Yes,
future
that's
husband,
awesome.
obviously her heavenly Father, and even with my son as well. There is
Oh
some
man.
special that he has prepared.
Oh. Mm.
So,
Mm.
yeah,
I
uh,
love that.
there might be a crush here, and like you said, they might have
Mm.
a crush, but pray for the man or the wife that he has
Yes.
prepared for you. And yeah, that's what I'm
Mm.
really trying to instill in my daughter. And wait for that person. Wait
Mm. Mm.
the right one that he
Mm.
has planned and destined
Exactly.
for you. So yeah,
Definitely.
it's something that we, for our daughters, like you shared, it's so important to teach
Mm.
them to keep the Lord first and be His
Yes.
betrothed.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Very
Yeah.
important.
Like you said, whether you are single, whether you are married, like in my case, I still need to keep him. It's even more important for me to keep him first now, having an earthly husband there. Definitely.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine like the normal struggles, to
Mm.
have your heavenly husband to run to. Um,
Yes.
but I just want to backtrack a little bit to the time when you went through your marriage crisis and you
Mm-hmm.
were actually divorced and you got remarried.
Yeah.
When did you find your heavenly husband, and how did it change your situation in your journey when you found him?
Okay, so let me answer you on when did I find him first. So I found him in that time when I was divorced.
Mm,
So I was working through all the materials. I had read how God can restore your marriage, and I had been working through Wise Women. But I was reading these testimonies on encouraging women. Women were speaking about their heavenly husband, and I found it very strange at first. What were they talking about? Coming from church, it sounds really, really strange.
yeah, yeah.
But I loved what I, yeah. Oh, I loved what I was reading. They sounded so content and so happy. And so in that divorce state that I was in, because I was hurting so much and because I wanted what I was reading. I mean, a lot of us, I mean, so I've now heard so many women testimonies, and I've read it so, like, in so many places on the websites, and I've heard it, on in fellowships and stuff, where women say they want that. And so I also wanted that.
Mm,
And so I went and I read. There is the hurdles. If you go into sitemap, there's those hurdles over there. Or it came up somewhere in the blogs, and I clicked on that link about his bride, and I read all the testimonies, and I loved what I was reading in the testimonies. And there's also a lesson in course two. I can't remember what it's called, where Yvonne is also sharing how she. I also read that lesson. So I read a lot of the material to try and understand. But I mean, it didn't mean that immediately I
mm,
felt that he was my heavenly husband. It didn't just happen. I asked him, and then there was a period where I was fasting, um, but I made a decision that I was going to fast to get to know him.
mm,
I was going to fast to increase my intimacy with him. I was so hurt and so broken that I was just at a place in my life where I really needed him. So because I had read about what these other women were saying, I went on a fast and I asked him, to help me to understand this heavenly husband story, and also to become closer to him. And so I mean, that was when I had never fasted before in my life. So, like, I started seeking him and asking him, okay, now how do I fast? Because I don't know, how do I do this? So he showed me at first, have a black cup of tea with sugar, maybe like thrice a day, and fast. Just have black tea and fast for the day. And so, because I would get headaches, and, I would feel really awful. And so I would seek him, and he would show me how to go about fasting, until eventually I got to a place where I could fast, not dry it, but I could just have water for 3 days. And I had a few fasts like that, and and I said to myself, I wasn't going to fast for my marriage. I wasn't going to fast for anything but to be close to him. And it happened. The one day I felt this. I would I'll always look back and remember that I felt complete and satisfied. Those were two words that I always used to explain how I felt, and it was the feeling that would radiate through me. I felt complete and I felt satisfied. And this was coming from feeling broken and feeling hurt and feeling bitter. When I found him, and he became my heavenly husband, finally I felt complete. And I would always thank him for helping me feel complete, because I felt lonely and I felt hurt and all those horrible feelings. And finally, suddenly, when I had him as my heavenly husband, yeah, I'm feeling complete and I'm feeling satisfied and I'm feeling like I don't need anything else. And Adina, that's when he restored my marriage. When I finally got to that place where I was like, I'll be okay on my own, that's when he restored my marriage. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
There's something that you also
Yeah.
now mentioned, and it was
Mm-hmm.
something that it was in a comment or in a praise report on Love at Last,
Mm-hmm.
is about how do you know, fall in love with him. And um,
Mm-hmm.
I think Aaron also shared in a comment, and that's exactly how it happened for me, is
Yeah.
asking, asking. And that's exactly what I did. I asked him to
Simple.
give
Mm.
me that love for him and to fill my heart to the brim
Yeah.
with love
Yeah.
for him that will heal all the pain that you're
Yes.
going through, that will give you the comfort you need. Um,
Mm.
and he did it. And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It happened
Yes.
slowly, it was a process. But
Yes, it's a process.
then eventually, one day, it's like, okay, I'm not hurting. I'm actually feeling joy.
Yeah.
And I'm, like you said, you're
Yeah.
content where you are. And if you have to be single, that's
Yes.
fine. You're just
Mm.
fine
Mm.
with everything. So
Mm.
ask.
Yeah.
You will, you
Yeah.
will do it for you, but maybe not overnight. for everyone.
No, it's not overnight. Like you said, it's definitely a process, and it didn't happen overnight for me. But I was so desperate that, I fasted, but I also asked him. I really did ask him. There was quite a few times, and even when I wasn't feeling that way, I would ask him again, and then, yeah, eventually it came. And when it did strike me that, hey, it was so wonderful. It was the best feeling ever. It felt like my heart could burst. It was such a wonderful feeling because I had him, and then it just felt like everything was okay and my future looked okay. We also worried about our futures and what's going to happen with our lives, and then finally it was okay because my future was in his hands, my life was in his hands, and it's such a better place to be than to be in my hands, because I was just messing up my own life. But then when my life was in his hands, then suddenly everything was okay. And I really got to that place, Adina, where I would have been fine if he didn't restore,
Mm,
and for me now, my life is, I'm at a place where, no matter what happens, I have him. And so everything is just going to be fine. I'll always, and I mean, since I have him, the one thing I've always had is just happiness and joy. I have a lot of happiness and joy, and I don't worry so much about things. I can take
mm,
it to him, and I know that, hey, he's gonna sort it out. It's gonna be fine. And I do have days where I wake up feeling down, or I get sick with the flu. We all have those days. Where we feel like we don't have energy or strength. But I know I can go to him, and I know that I don't have to stay in that place of feeling unhappy or down. I can just go to him and say, hey, I feel this way. Hey, help me. And yeah, he's there, and he
no,
does.
yeah, no, definitely for me as well. Because it's not like you never have a day where you, like you said, you wake up and you feel
Yeah,
maybe down or you're feeling sick or whatever. And
yeah,
it's just
we're
amazing.
human.
There's actually someone you can talk to and that will actually understand, because sometimes
Yeah.
uh, another human being won't understand or don't have the empathy with you,
Yeah.
but he is there.
Mm,
He
mm,
loves to listen to you and he understands and
mm,
he comforts you and he
mm.
leads you away. Like I
Yeah.
said, I mean, I take for myself as well. Sometimes someone will share that they are sick and you
Mm,
sympathize, but you can't
mm.
give them that what he can give you.
With you.
So that's
Mm, mm.
it's
Yeah,
a
that's true.
relationship that I think we
Mm,
all dream of. That
definitely.
definitely a dream come true to have him as your
Definitely.
heavenly husband.
Definitely. Yeah. And he doesn't change. I think
Yeah,
that's what, he stays the same. And I think that's what makes it, that's what helps us.
yeah, yeah,
Because we are always changing. We always coming with these different emotions, but he stays the same. Yeah, definitely.
exactly. Then just as a final, encouragement for the ladies, what would you like to share with them?
You know what? I think we shared a lot of encouragement in what we said. I mean, I felt so encouraged just
Mm,
by having this conversation, podcast conversation with you. But what I would say is that there's a lot of resources that's there and that's available. And for me, when I came to the ministry, I was studying accounting,
mm,
and I was gonna get my degree, and I was gonna become this accountant, and I was gonna my earthly husband was not taking care of us, and we weren't where we were gonna get somewhere in life because I was gonna go study, I was gonna go get my degree. But I'm telling you, I was just tearing down my own house with my own hands. The things that I was striving and fighting for, it didn't help. My
mm,
marriage fell apart, my life fell apart, and there I was reaching for what I thought was going to fix my situation. It didn't. So for me, let me get you the encouragement part. For me, I made that decision to put it aside because I wanted to not be destroyed for lack of knowledge anymore. So I made that decision to start to leave my church and to start journaling and to really start tapping into resources. I mean, they were all there. They were free. They were there online. I could use my phone
Yeah.
and go read things. And for me, I really felt that I had did so much destroying of my life, and I needed to know the truth. And so I really started tapping into the resources. So, you know, I'm always going to sound like a broken record because because I always say this, but I say it because it helped me so much. So my encouragement is that sometimes we got to put aside things that is taking up a lot of our time in our lives so that we can have the time for his word, and to learn more about his word. And so there's so much there on Hope at Last, on Love at Last, Homegrown. All of it is there. And I mean, for me, I've been working through these resources for years, like literally years now. Um, and I'm not done. I'm still working through, I mean, I'm on Moving Mountains now. I'm
Yeah.
not yet done. And I started tapping into He Healed Me, not He Healed Me, Restore Your Relationship. So what I'm saying is there's so much there, you know. So my encouragement is that wherever you are in your life, we've got a lot of resources. There's a lot available. Tap into it, and you know you'll be surprised at how much you're going to learn and how much your life will change with this new knowledge, you know, that He wants you to have. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
Oh, thank you, Atarah, and I agree. There's so much, and even if you
Mm.
did go through all the courses, you can always benefit from going back as he leads you. You know, if
Yes.
you're back to Wise
Mm.
Women, then go there. I
Yeah.
mean, but there is so much, and we can constantly just go back to the resources and never.
Mm.
And every time you're going to find something else in each lesson.
Always.
Yeah, so it
Always.
depends where you are, and but it's
Mm.
I also love it. I also
Mm.
went through all my courses. I'm also busy with Moving Mountains, but
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go back eventually and start
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. I find myself, I'm on Movie Mountains and I find myself going back to finding the One Life. Maybe there was a chapter there that I enjoyed. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
But thank you, Tara, and thank you for your time and joining us. And I believe what you shared will encourage others. So, and yeah,
Mm.
just thank you.
Thanks, Adina. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.